It's truly my honor to be with you all this afternoon. What is it, afternoon, morning? So my days run together. But when I was first tasked with coming here and doing this today, I kind of was like, well, what's the first thing that you speak about? And it's kind of like you were talking about before. So anybody can do research and get online and see what happened before they were here. But I think it's super important for us, especially in this day and time, in 2018, to just look at each other and say that, what are we doing to help? Or what are we watching that is not helping? It's oftentimes being silent is part of the problem, right? Because we get nervous and we get scared and we get fearful. So I just want to try something just to kind of prove my point here. First people just tell me where you're from. Like, where were you born?
Tampa, Florida.
Trinidad.
New York. Louisville, Kentucky.
South Carolina.
Okay, so I want some of your Creole cooking. I want to know more about where you're from. Everybody who's from Tampa, I want to know the best place to get a Cuban sandwich. I used to work in Charleston, South Carolina. Somebody here said they were from Trinidad? Yes?
Until you have Trini food, you haven't eaten.
Okay. And then the two people from, or was it two people from New York? Where's the best place to have the pizza?
Oh, Queens.
Really?
Yes.
Queen, stand up. So the reason I did that is because, see, so we're just in this front row, we're all from someplace that's different, right? It's not super different, but it's not, everybody's not from Tampa. Sometimes we fear the things that we don't understand, and I think it's easy to do. I do it every day. I don't really know what that's about, so I just choose not to worry about it. I think that fear and fire are two words that are very, very close. The only letter that's different is I. You are the reason why you're afraid of anything. Truly. I watch every day on the news and I see just horrible things that people do to each other, the horrible things they'll do to their own families. But you have to hold on to the hope that there are still those great stories out there and those great people who do awesome things. And it's not just black people helping black people or white people helping white people. I think what makes this world go round is that there are enough people out there right now who are helping each other. And so if we can turn that fear into fire, you know, once you light a fire, it's hard to put it out, right? Right? The only way you can put it out is water. My grandmother used to always say, she's like, the only thing I'm really afraid of is water because it can put a fire out. So that's true. That's true. So I was tasked today with talking about lifting every voice. You know, I'm an advocate for freedom of speech. I'm a journalist. I think that it's important for people to be able to say what they feel and mean what they say. But I think there's a difference between hate speech and freedom of speech. And I don't know, the older I get, the more I start to see that it seems like hate speech is creeping back in a little bit, you know? And especially as an African American in television, sometimes there are mean people who write me mean things on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and email, because it's really easy to have keyboard courage, right? It's really easy to say that you hate my hair through Facebook. Nobody's ever walked up to me and said that in public. But even with that, like I said, I think there's a difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And it is wrong to judge somebody by the color of their skin and not the content of their character. And Dr. King said that so long ago, but it is still so, so very true. And it's important for us to continue that same dream that he had, because it's easy to forget it. It's easy to go on with our day-to-day lives. I mean, I walked in this building and I was like, where am I, Fort Knox? It's like thousands of people work here, right? How many times are you fearful to have a conversation with somebody about something that they said that you just wasn't right? You know? How many times have you not said something or spoken up about something because you're just like, it's really none of my business? Think of how many people have done that. It's just really none of my business. Black History Month is all of our business. It doesn't matter what race you are. It's important to know that this is a month to celebrate people who have showcased American history. I mean, this is a part of American history. And when you think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he let his words ring out so that we could lift our voices. Rosa Parks wouldn't give up her seat so that all of us could stand. Ruby Bridges desegregated an all-white school so that all of us could learn. I mean, I can't tell you how many African American people I have met who have been met with just so much adversity, and somehow they still come out on top, And there's something that can be learned from that. From the 3 examples I just gave you, 2 of them technically really didn't say anything. They let their actions speak louder than words. It was something my mom used to always tell us. She always would say this, and she's going to see this speech tonight because I'm going to show it to her. And I would say, Mom, you did. She never would let us say, we're sorry. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, I'm sorry. I don't want to hear you're sorry. I want to know that you mean it by what you're going to do next, right? So I don't want to know that you think it's not right that somebody is judged because they're African American or because of where they're from or because they're not from America. I don't want to hear that. I want to see it in what we do every day. Because if, this 70, 80 people who are in here with me right now, if we can all go do that, can you imagine how many lives we can touch? Especially during Black History Month. Showing young kids, I don't care what race they are, that this is the way that you're supposed to be. Because again, right is right and wrong is wrong. In this month, we celebrate American leaders, inventors, activists, and the like, who dedicated their lives to living above the hatred and rising to the occasion, being the voice for a community that for so long they had to be silent. Like, how important is that right now? In 2018, you think back and you're like, there was a community of people who were not allowed to do anything. They weren't. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine living my life where somebody tells me, well, you can't be on TV because you're Black. So I got a chance to meet Monica Kaufman. I'm from Atlanta, so Monica Kaufman was the first African-American newscaster that just really became almost like a national name in Atlanta. And I remember growing up and watching her, and in my eyes, she wasn't Black. We liked to watch her every day. My mom liked to watch her every day. And now that I'm here and I do this job every day, I just think of the magnitude of what she did and how courageous she must have been. And somebody sending me a message about they don't like my dress or my hair today, can you imagine the kind of things that she saw and the things that people said to her? That's terrible, right? But I want you to know some of that is still happening today. It is. It's true. About a month ago, someone wrote on my Facebook page, I kid you not, wrote on a public forum for everybody to see, go back to Africa. This was like a month ago. It is incredible to me. It's truly incredible. And I wanted to write back, and now that I look back on it and I tell you all about it, I think that was a missed opportunity. I remained silent for no reason. I don't have to be mean, but you tell someone. You let them know this is not okay. This is not how you'll speak to me. And there's no reason for you to have said this to me other than being hateful. And that's kind of another thing that I think about when I think about Black History Month. It's just, it's one of those stories that my dad once told me. So my parents moved from Akron, Ohio to Atlanta in the 80s, right before I was born. So they lived in Ohio, so it wasn't really, they would see the riots on television. They knew it was happening, but you're kind of in a place where you're a little bit isolated from it, so you only see it on television, right? So my parents moved to Atlanta together. My dad says they're driving down the street, they see the KKK lining the street. And he's like, where did we move to? It's still in the continental US, it's just this was commonplace and it was what was okay to be done. So my father told me a story very recently. He had never told me this, but he told me a story about he was just driving his car one day, driving home from work or going to work. Police officer pulls him over. Officer, what'd you pull me over for? Get out of the car. Immediately, get out of the car. He gets out, answers all the questions. All these cops start coming around him. Like, he didn't do anything, nothing wrong. He was just in the wrong part of town because he's Black. That still happens today. You see it on the news and you say, well, That's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. But is that all you said? Did you have a conversation with people that you know? Do you think about it? Do you really say to yourself, this cannot continue to happen when we have such great leaders who have done so much for us in, I would just say, in the last 50, 60 years? What did they fight for? What was their conversation like? They were jailed for saying what was right. Like put in jail. I cannot imagine being put in jail for telling someone you should not call that woman that name just because of the color of her skin. I can't imagine that. It's just, it's unfathomable. It's one of those things where, again, I'm from Atlanta, like I said, but former ambassador to the United Nations and former mayor of Atlanta, Andrew Young, he's also a civil rights leader, so many of you know him. But he once said this, and I think it's so important. Freedom is a struggle, and we do it together. Not only as black people, not just as white people, but we do it together. And in these days and times, there's just so many races and creeds everywhere, you know. You can walk down the street and you can meet, just in my building alone at the station, there are people who speak different languages, people from different places. We can solve these issues together, but you can't do it by yourself. And you can't do it talking about it in your house saying, gosh, that just really wasn't right. But I should have said something. Kind of like me that day, I should have said something. You know, every race, every religion, we need each other to understand each other. So if I say something to you and you just don't get it, I just don't understand what you're saying. It doesn't mean that you're stupid. It doesn't mean that you're being rude. It means that at the time you're just ignorant to what that person's going through. So you give yourself the opportunity to understand. My sister just passed the bar in Alabama last year. It was a really cool thing just to watch my parents just get so excited about that. But for 3 years, she went to the University of Alabama. And for 3 years, she struggled because out of like 105 kids in her class, there were 7 black students. And kids still treated her like she was black. That's how they treated her. In 2017, is that weird to anybody else? Like, see, you can react, like nobody's gonna get mad at you, but I just think that that's just ridiculous. Here I am lifting my voice. You can't be serious. Someone who's able to pass the LSAT, to get into a good law school, to get good grades, to do what they're supposed to do, and all you're worried about is the fact that she's black, and she just might show you up. How is that something that we're thinking about? I don't care what your race is. I want you to win just because I want you to win. I think that's something that we have to really continue to tell people. And if we all look at ourselves today and say, yeah, I don't really do that a lot, you know? I think it's kind of a reckoning that we have to have with each other and just understanding that this is our purpose and this is what we should be doing. I don't know if you guys know who Willie O'Ree is. He's another really good example. So Willie O'Ree was the first African-American hockey player in the NHL. This past week at the NHL All-Star game, which was in Tampa, he celebrated the 60th year of, that's all, he broke the color barrier of the NHL. And somebody asked him at the event, they said, well, you know, Willie, how did you feel 60 years ago when you were the only black guy in the NHL? He said, I'll tell you like I tell anybody else. If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. Think about that. In life, I pretty much think I can do anything. I know that I cannot push a car down the street if it's in park. If it's in neutral, I could probably push it. We can do pretty much anything together. It's hard to do things by yourself, but you can do pretty much anything. And I think that racial issues are something that's really what we need to work on together, you know. So I leave you all with this because I think it's important for each and every one of us to really reflect this Black History Month. And it's called Black History Month, but I think that we should all, it's like Willie O'Ree, he has it's a nonprofit, and it's called Hockey for Everyone. The point of it was to get African-American children to want to play hockey. But the more and more he did it, he was like, you know, every kid needs to be able to play hockey. This is an awesome sport, and not enough people play it. So now he's opened it to everybody. I mean, think about that. The guy who made sure that black people could play in the NHL is now allowing anybody. Whoever wants to listen to him, whoever wants to learn from him, they can come. Now, how awesome is that? I think that's who we need to be a little bit more like, myself included. I get so bogged down by the things that are happening each and every day that I'm not really thinking about my outside world. But I think if each and every one of us just kind of give ourselves that push this month, and maybe when February's over and March comes and it's not Black History Month anymore, we're still working together to a common good, right? Denzel Washington once said, without commitment, you will never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you will never finish. We can't just do it in February. We have to do it all year long. We have to do it together. And together, we can make this world a better place. I thank y'all for having me, really. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.